It's over, Noah. Accepted.
Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes is a classic rags to riches tale, only about an entire army. It's hard to imagine your final team when you first start recruiting dozens of unique characters. However, as more fighters join your cause, from a two-faced healer with a brutish side to a magical girl with a hero complex, this unpredictable journey starts to take shape. The scale of the story grows with each chapter, folding in more countries and people until your ragtag team is a proper battalion. That sizable cast and loads of side content can add fluff to the campaign, with half-baked elements like encounters that rely on RNG to drag things down a bit. But for anyone willing to hold out long enough, 100 Heroes slow burn eventually lights into an impressive fire. "100 Heroes" follows Noah, a new recruit in a local army who has been tasked with cooperating with the larger Empire's Special Forces team. While that could have put him at odds with Sane, a rising talent that leads that team, what ensues instead is a bonding moment that sets the tone nicely for the entire campaign, that two opposing sides could find compromise rather than conflict. The story might feel like a typical hero's journey at first, but as you peel back the layers, you'll start to understand that there's more to the main cast and why they fight for what they do.
I left my village because I heard something big was happening out here in the world.
100 Heroes campaign takes around 40 to 60 hours to complete, depending on how much time you spend recruiting characters, upgrading your castle, and playing minigames, including this one that's kinda like Beyblades.
This! She's coming for ya.
Take this!
Now!
Some of the recruitment quests are easy, like defeating enemies for specific drops that allies ask for. Others feel like a never-ending mystery, like finding a lucky fish for a fisherman guy. That said, the campaign doesn't force you to complete any specific side quest, though it might encourage you to recruit a certain number of allies before advancing to the next chapter. Despite eventually enjoying it, 100 Heroes suffers from a slow start that initially holds it back. It frontloads an unimpressive amount of backtracking between destinations, especially considering the random encounters that interrupt the journey. 100 Heroes doesn't clearly spell out the solution to every puzzle either, so you sometimes need to pace through cities over and over before finding what you're looking for. It takes 15 hours just to unlock fast travel, which you'll only stumble upon after wandering the streets of one major city. At that point, things really start to open up because you can satisfyingly teleport between towns to recruit allies, but that amount of time is a lot to get through before a payout. While following an endearing troop of misfits and their quest to overthrow a corrupt ruler might sound like every other kingdom-based RPG, the balance between the personal struggles of its characters and the intricacies of an overarching war combine into an entertaining story. Some characters struggle in interesting ways between obligations to their home country and a desire for justice, while others are bystanders only emboldened into action after watching the efforts of your passionate team. Still, parts of that tale felt weaker than others and suffered from a few pacing issues, like one major faction appearing only halfway through the campaign. Also, the mixed bag of twists could leave you scratching your head as often as they have you cheering from the sidelines. Unlike its spin-off prequel, the hack-and-slash side-scroller, Eiyuden Chronicle Rising, 100 Heroes mainly operates as a turn-based RPG. You control a party of 6 characters that you can swap around before or after battle, each with their own stat distributions and abilities that set them apart from the others. For example, Leon is a hard-hitting fighter with weak defenses, while Gar is a sturdy tank with decent offense but no magic. These are the types of pros and cons you need to think about when building a team, though 100 Heroes gives you so many characters that you can completely ignore most of them. While it's fun mechanically, it means that some feel like they're just there to serve a temporary purpose in the plot. Like the name 100 Heroes might suggest, over 100 heroes fill a role either in your town or your army. It's a bit like Pokemon with soldiers, but there are different requirements for each one if you want to catch them all. Some might join you immediately after you speak to them, whereas others could request that you come back after you get stronger. Some of these allies fight at your side, and others eventually run stores at the castle town that acts as your home base. Finding elusive recruits meaningfully fills time between story chapters, both as a way to gather valuable materials and to learn more about the world. Sometimes a chapter puts specific characters from your team for story reasons, which forces you to experiment with new allies. Some even have hero combos they could only use with certain teammates, which range from abilities that either deal more damage than 2 attackers would on their own, to ones that can hit all enemies at once while buffing allies at the same time. Unfortunately, many characters feel more like gimmicks rather than necessary tools. As a result, the most effective team comps will probably end up looking very similar, which makes all that choice feel a bit like smoke and mirrors.
One punch for you!
Very nice!
Besides turn-based combat, 100 Heroes features a few half-baked challenges as a bridge between chapters. It introduces strategy RPG battles after the central war in its story begins, mostly when facing enemy generals. You'll control armies of soldiers on a grid-like map and command them to attack opposing armies. Major characters act as commanders with impactful special abilities, like lowering defenses or HP to secure an advantage before an invasion. Events can even pop up during these battles, like generals joining the fray or split-second betrayals, which add some spice to the mix, but often make your tactical decisions more straightforward. You'll also participate in duels during major plot points, usually with one main character facing a rival or antagonist. Here you can choose to either attack to deal damage and raise the tension gauge a little, or counter to take less damage from the attack and build a larger amount of tension. The idea is to whittle down the enemy's health enough to reach the break meter on their HP bar, which lets you use a stronger break attack to finish them off. Alternatively, maxing out the tension gauge enables you to deal a similarly devastating blow. However, the enemy attacks or counters is entirely up to chance, which can make duels feel unfairly random. Gimmicks can appear in the regular turn-based boss battles too. Most of them are obstacles to work around with the strategy, like setting aside one character to flip a switch or a secret weapon between turns. However, gimmicks based on random chance could increase a battle's difficulty without adding any interesting strategy. One early fight asks you to pick between 2 hammers that could potentially deal 3 times the damage of one unit. If you pick the wrong hammer, then you waste one character's turn and have to survive the fight for a longer amount of time.
Listen to the whispers of justice!
What does that even mean?
But similar to duels, there doesn't seem to be any way to tell which one is the right pick, which leaves the difficulty up to chance rather than any particular strategy. Once you get past its slow start, Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes mostly succeeds in weaving the stories of multiple countries and characters together in a sprawling epic. Its turn-based combat system operates smoothly, even if other modes like its strategy RPG battles can encourage simplistic strategies over critical thinking. And while collecting and experimenting with its 100 heroes can be entertaining, you won't get to know the majority of them because of how much screen time they need to share with the rest of its bloated cast. Still, there's plenty of satisfying side quests and castle building to fill in those gaps, which makes 100 Heroes eventually feel worth the journey. For more RPGs, check out our reviews of Astra, Knights of Veda, or Broken Roads. And for everything else, stick with IGN.